Welcome everyone to the support session number 1 called Ideation. In this session, we'll be looking at understanding what makes a good idea and learning different techniques for generating new business ideas.
Starting a business is it's life-changing, really exciting for you at the start of your journey. Hopefully you're going to become an entrepreneur, really so exciting, and maybe it's like entry into the real world. Doesn't matter if you've not had experience in setting up a business before. It's all about kind of creating your own destiny, it's creating paths for you. I absolutely love that. Finding the right idea is the challenging task, and I know there'll be a mixture of you here today that have not got ideas and some that do. Sometimes it can be the result of something spontaneous, or sometimes it's more accidental, but I promise there is a method behind the madness, and that's what I'm going to share with you today. Okay, so before we move on to some techniques, we'll go to the next slide. We're going to look at what is ideation. And, broadly speaking, it can be defined as the process involved in generating ideas, including gathering information on ideas, collecting thoughts about the ideas. Ideation is used to make improvements to existing products or services, in addition to creating these new ideas and new concepts. So you'll see from this, it can be used both internally within an organisation, but also externally. And when it's used internally, I would say businesses will tend to gather the ideas from employees, people that are actually experiencing what they're looking to make better. And looking at externally, I'd say that, and this is something I'm going to come on to later, but it's really looking at who are you targeting, who is your customer, because the customers know the product or the service better than anyone because they are the ones that use it. So they've got knowledge, the customers have got knowledge that you won't have. So most external ideation efforts will be directed in this way. And so you'll see from these two examples, it's actually very useful to speak to people. So I want you to actually remember this going forwards. And then looking at who it's for, well, ideation is primarily for anybody in the process of making an impact towards a better solution. And problems and solutions are going to be coming up in the next couple of weeks. But basically, we're looking at, your ideas are solutions to problems. So perhaps today you are an aspiring business owner. Maybe you want to start a small business. You don't have any ideas. And this is where the brainstorming comes in, the first technique. I'm going to go through this shortly, but just a fantastic way to get creative juices flowing and creating a very comfortable space to come up with lots of new ideas. And after a good brainstorming session, you are going to be well on your way to starting a profitable business. So let's look at why ideation. And there are actually 4 areas on why it can help you in starting a business, or more generally the internal aspect of it as well. So I would say that ideation generates ideas to improve products or services. So it's not just about doing it at the beginning, it's kind of constantly. It's about generating ideas for future products or services. We're at the start of this journey today, but as we go on, we might want to add products or services. And then actually moving on to more established ideas of businesses, ideation can create customer engagement and it can help customer loyalty. So these are for later on, but I want you to be aware and remember this. We're going to focus right now on future products or services. What's going to be the next big thing? Is it going to be you that launches this? How exciting. And how do you know it's going to be good? How do you know it's going to be a success? Is there a demand for it? So before we move on to some techniques, I'm going to quickly go through 5 golden rules of tips so that you've got this in your mind as we go through the techniques. We'll talk about it later on, but I just want to set you some context right now. First of all, I would say there are absolutely no bad ideas. And you never want to overthink things. You want them to come to you organically. And quantity is better than quality. So in this stage, you want to come up with as many as possible so we can whittle down. It's very hard to have a few ideas and make them grow into something. Whereas if you've got many different ideas, you can eliminate. And this is what it is. So there's no bad ideas. The wackier sometimes, the better. And the more you can get into a creative headspace, the better. So quantity over quality at this point. Document everything. So I would say using other people to actually input for stronger ideas using encouragement. If you were to do this in a setting with some of your friends or with family, whoever is helping you in this session, you actually want to encourage, even if you think, oh my gosh, this is not a good idea at all. That's not what you want to say. You want to really promote more ideas, because if you've got something wacky, you can turn that into something that we can make an idea with. But if you've got a lot of bland ideas, that's very hard to create it into something exciting. So enrich with other people and encourage others. Keep an open mind, as I said, with all our sessions. And we really want a non-judgmental attitude, so promoting encouragement. And I would also say, for me, when I've done brainstorming before, it's really useful to do this outside your usual context. So every day I sit here, I would actually probably move rooms, go to a space outside, and really put myself in a different situation so that my brain is going to think differently. And yeah, I would say the focusing on the quantity over the quality, that encourages in itself creativity and freedom. And we want to promote more adventurous ideas. This is what leads to innovation. So really, to encourage you is to, the goal of ideation, create as many ideas as possible. Don't think about it. So I would say, let's start off with brainstorming. So brainstorming, you've not heard of this before, this is a really creative process where a person or a group might sit down with a particular problem in mind. And then from that, they might spontaneously create solutions to this problem. And it can be as simple as making lists, writing down lists, or you might want to actually create a roadmap and get a piece of large paper, start with the problem here and create different roadmaps coming out of it. And being as creative as possible in these different techniques, I would really suggest for you to do it, get the creative juices going. I would usually use some post-it notes and I'd put them on a wall instead of using them on the table. And it's usually in the beginning stages of a project. And with brainstorming, the goal is to have as many ideas as possible, and this will help you really define what the problem is and all the possible creative solutions. So try and think more, not everybody is creative minded, but thinking creatively and actually understanding how you can get your mind out of this usual way that it thinks, using a whiteboard, or maybe you can use some online software, a pen and paper, but really not using your laptop, being sort of creative with how you're doing it, I think, for me, promotes the creative juices to flow. So that's brainstorming. I'm going to do more on that shortly. Brainwriting is alternative to brainstorming. And instead of verbally sharing the ideas, you would write your idea, and you do it with a group of individuals. You will write your idea down on a piece of paper, and then you pass it on. And then the next person will read that idea and then add their own on the end of it. And once you go around everybody here, the process will continue until each person has contributed. So if you're sitting with 4 people, you want, first of all, to write down your idea. You pass it on to the next person, to the next. You've got 4 altogether. And then all the ideas are collected and you will have a discussion as a group. So this is like a physical ideation method. So during a body storm, what you want to do is create a physical experience that represents the problem that you're trying to solve. So this might be done using paper or a digital prototype, or I would say what would be effective is a real person, although you might not be able to do it that right now in COVID times, but it's really creating something, role-playing almost, so that you then are experiencing the problem firsthand. It's quite often that when I will meet an entrepreneur that has an idea, or an individual that's got a new business idea, sometimes they have not actually experienced the problem. And for you to actually have empathy and step into that person, the person's shoes, the one that's going to experience the problem, you do this firsthand, it makes it easier for you to imagine all the potential solutions to the problems that you're addressing, rather than thinking this through in your head. So that's body storming. So next, let's go on to mind mapping. So mind mapping is one that works really well for me because I'm a visual learner. So visual ideation techniques that really encourages you to draw connections between different sets of ideas or information. So what you would do with this approach is you'd start by writing down a key word in the middle of the page. I usually do a bubble around it, and I use different colours or pens. So then let's look at the last one I'm going to do here is reverse thinking. So this is another popular ideation technique. And this is what you would, to do this one, you would flip the problem on its head. So you want to do the opposite. So it's kind of like could be an upside down challenge. For example, if the original question is how might we encourage teenagers to go to gym, that could be reversed, it could be flipped. And we could be saying then, how can we make the gym as appealing as possible for teenagers? So this is quite fun, I would say, this one. And I think you can also draw a lot of inspiration from the anti-solutions that you come up with. It makes you think about an idea from a really different perspective. So flipping it on its head, the upside down. So I've shared with you some ideation techniques that you can lead this session and do yourself and do with some of your friends. I would even recommend you doing online, and try mixing them up as well. Try maybe 2 or 3 of them and see what happens with each of them and see where you find your success. So I'm going to go on now to 3 techniques for effective brainstorming. So that was the first technique that I did. While you're brainstorming, you might feel yourself wanting to focus on a really small number of ideas. Naturally, as humans, that's what we do. But really try and resist this urge. You need to get yourself focused. And in this environment, you want to come up with as many ideas as possible, unlocking new ventures, avenues of thought. You want to really resist from going back to your old idea. And by doing quantity over the quality, you then are releasing yourself for an even better one than you originally had, I promise you. And secondly, I said this before, don't judge ideas. Like creativity can become severely dampened by inhibitions. When you're worried about something, you don't want you then actually constrict yourself. You want to be free flowing. You want to explore your imagination. As humans, we are really creative. And, through time, we kind of get boxed in and we have to find where our creativity is. I think for me, getting in a space of creativity, I actually listen to a particular genre of music that I never listen to. I listen to a lot of music, but there's one for me that gets me into the zone and it really changes for me. So think about how you can actually be creative, and really refraining from judgment is so important. Save the judgments for later. We want to be critical at a later stage, but not in ideation. We want quantity. So think to yourself, I'm going to be free. I'm going to let myself go here, and I'm going to come up with as many wacky ideas as possible. I promise you, if you can have the shift in your mindset, it's going to be successful for you. And then on the back of that, I would say definitely have a group of people. So I know that we can't really meet up in real life right now, but we've seen so much success in doing it online. Set up a video chat with yourself and really dedicate some time to exploring with at least one other person, Everybody has got different minds. We've all had different experiences. We've all got different perspectives. So actually inviting people into your space of creativity means that we've got more ideas to explore because we've got these different perspectives. So I would say connecting even with family or friends. It doesn't need to be somebody that you're going to set up a business with, but just somebody that you can take on this initial journey with you. So then moving on now to the 6 steps of brainstorming. Let's break this down. So then moving on to the third one is research. So once you've got a list of good ideas, of those of you that have got an idea, then it's time to do some research and to really hone in and focus on the ideas. So if you're just starting out in your industry, which many of you might be because you are university students, you might not know what questions to ask about business. So that's fine. Go and do some basic research on your industry, Google searches, go online, take out books, read journals, really get to know as much as possible about the field that you're going to enter. Preparing yourself with knowledge is so important at this point. And yeah, when people start out and you've got a business idea, you've got to wear many different hats. And actually, being an industry expert, of course, you don't know this at the beginning, but you're going to have to start developing, and research will get you there. Next, I'm going to go on to is filtering your ideas. So once you have collected some solid ideas and you've done your research and you are still figuring out, okay, which is my one idea so I can start creating this into real life, into reality, well, we want to just stretch that a little bit. And there's 3 common filters that successful entrepreneurs will use to hone in on what their top priorities are. And this is time, money, and resources. So those of you with an idea that you feel like this is what you're going to focus on, that this is the opportunity I've spotted, I want you to evaluate the idea based on the priorities. And then those of you with several ideas, evaluate all the ideas with these priorities. And you want to ask questions like, how hard is it going to be to make this product or to deliver this service? How hard? How much is it going to cost? You're going to have to do a bit of research on this. How much is it going to cost to make? How many manufacturers will it take? Doing a bit of research into this. How much is it going to cost to ship if you're going to have to ship the product? And actually, how big a team of people are you going to need in order to bring this to life? Is it just going to be yourself? But it's often not. It's often not at all. And successful businesses usually see success because they're in a team. So how many do you need, really? And this will begin to really understand what creative ideas are going to be feasible for you. Be realistic, be really, really honest with yourself. And I would say when it comes to looking at team, like looking at what your strengths are, going back to the skills and what you have developed in yourself, and then going on to, you know, realistically, can I deliver on this? If you can't, no problem. Go to another idea. It's not going to work out for you, and that's fine. That's fine, completely fine. Okay, so going on to number 5 is naming your business. So it might seem bizarre to name so early in the process, but there's a reason that a name can help you early on, because when you name something, it now makes it become real. You can change the name later on. This is not a problem, but giving your name, a business, a name right from the beginning will mean that you can actually bring your idea life and energy. So even if you're sitting there with 10 ideas, but you then whittle down to 4 ideas, give each of those ideas a business name so that they each have got legs to stand on, and that you're looking at them like and interacting with them like they're real things. And yeah, I mean, this doesn't need a lot of thought to do. This is actually, you can Google online business name generator. I would suggest do that. Don't spend long on it at all, but you want to bring them to life, and it really makes the relationship you're going to have with these ideas so much different. So name them. So number 6, the final one here, is develop your idea a bit before you share it. So communication, validation, part of human nature. And when you come up with an idea that you love, you may feel the need to share it right away. You're so excited about it. You love this idea. You're attached to it. You want to share it straight away. But sharing your idea too soon might cause a bit of problems. Now, I don't want to encourage you to not share it at all, because that's a problem. You want to share your ideas. But what I want you to do is to understand it a bit more clearly before then you share it. So, yeah, you really can do this again through the research, looking online. You can speak to a few potential customers that you think might be engaging with this product or this service, but really you want to be keeping it to yourself and researching before you share it too much, because you won't be able to understand it. If you can't understand it, how will others be able to understand it? So you need to actually understand what it is you're doing. And I suppose to that as well as looking at, well, what might pitfalls be, where are the disadvantages of this, where are the questions that people might be asking. So really the potential of success in these beginning stages might be at the start, you actually developing the idea a little bit before you then go on to share it. But I will really stress, you want to share it. I meet a lot of people that say, don't want to share my idea, I'm really protective over it. If you develop your idea like this, it's not going to work. I can guarantee you it's not going to develop and grow. You need others to input to it. So don't spend too long on this stage, but important that you understand it before you can articulate it. So then moving on to the next slide, yeah, for those of you that have got an idea here to say to you, once the other people in this session have gone away and you've developed your idea, come back. Well, how do you know your idea is worth pursuing? You know, business ideas are all around us. And for me, yeah, I would just say it's a matter of finding the pain point that a customer segment has and coming up with a solution. And those of you that have got an idea here today, I want you to understand, are you solving a problem? Because a lot of the time I meet people and they do not understand the problem that they are solving. How big is this pain point? How big is the problem that I'm solving? The bigger the pain point, the bigger the idea. And I would say that Google Trends can really help with this. Keyword searches over, you can type in Google Trends, you can type in a word, and it shows you how many times that word has been searched by country, by time. It's really interesting to see, because the people have got a pain point. Where do we go? We go to the internet to solve it. So this is a really good tool that you can use. And I'd say to you, yeah, let your ideas come naturally. Don't force them. Don't, you don't want them to, you want to keep it simple. You don't want to overthink things. You want to have a single pain point that you want to solve for your customer. So understanding that pain point explicitly and understanding how you're solving it for your customer is really, really important. So keeping this so simple. So actually, how I'd recommend you doing this is saying, we solve, state your problem for, who's the people, by doing your solution. So initial conversations as well, people ask, how much would you pay for this product? And, you know, I think that it's an open-ended question, so that's really good, but it's not a very effective question. It's probably a common mistake that I would say that people use. You want to rephrase that and say, what's the maximum you would pay for this product? Because then that gives you an idea of, well, where's your top price going to be? How far can you actually push it? And really, at the end of the day, we need to have people paying for the ideas, or else you're not going to have a business there at all. So those of you that have got an idea, understanding, is somebody going to pay for it? How much are they going to pay? What's the maximum? Because that's what you want as well.